Hello, and welcome to Better Money with the MAIAs, where we speak to the latest winners of the Money Awareness and Inclusion Awards to find out how they're helping other people to become better with money and perhaps learn some useful tips for ourselves too. With 2/3 of the world's population unable to answer very basic questions about money and finance becoming more complex all the time, we need as much help as we can get. I'm Michael Gilmore, co-founder of the MAIAs, and that's exactly why we started the awards. Today we're chatting with Flora Letanka from the Economist Educational Foundation, winner of this year's Best Content Creator and Aggregator Award. Hello and welcome to another episode of Better Money with the MAIAs, in which we talk to the winners of the MAIAs from the most recent year. And today I'm very happy to have with us Flora Letanka from the Economist Education Foundation that won first place for content this year for the Topical Talk series that they do. But before I pass to her to tell us all about that, first of all, I need to say congratulations to you for winning, because that's one of the things we love about actually having these interviews is, yes, we get to hear from you, but I actually get to say congratulations because it doesn't happen often enough. So very well done. Well done for all your work in changing the lives and the ways people think about money.
Thank you so much, Michael.
So, that being done, tell us about the Economist Education Foundation and Topical Talks. How did that actually get started? What was the inspiration for doing it? And how long has that been running?
So the Economist Educational Foundation was set up 12 years ago by someone working within the Economist Group who just spotted this opportunity. She was passionate about education, working in Economist events. But what she realised was we've got 300 journalists at the Economist working all over the world, analysing the latest business, economic, global, political trends, and distilling it in a way that is expert, intelligent, digestible for an adult audience. Meanwhile, you've got children in schools, and it started in UK schools across the UK, where you could go your entire school career without once talking about a current affair, whether that's a kind of business, economic or political thing. Meanwhile, we could see, or she could see, the trends that if you are able to situate your kind of curriculum knowledge in a global political context or in a global economic context, then you're more likely to do better at interview, whether that's for an apprenticeship or whether that's for a higher education institution. And if you're able to see the relevance of what you're doing in school and with what's going on in the world, then that's an incredibly empowering thing. So she created what began as the Burnett News Club, where the journalists would get together with her and a couple of people, very small team, to break down a big global news story into a format that could be taught in schools, in low-income areas across the UK, and really empower young people to get involved in discussions about what was going on in the world. And from that moment 12 years ago, it's grown and grown. I think both the need and the appetite has grown for what has evolved into Topical Talk, which is these weekly lessons that teachers can download for free anywhere in the world. And each lesson comes with brilliant teacher instructions, beautifully designed. Each lesson has had an Economist journalist's input. It's been fact-checked by The Economist, so it's tip-top quality that's downloadable anywhere in the world by teachers. But I think what's changed in 12 years is actually where young people are getting their information from, and why it's even more important now, more than ever, that they are being allowed, empowered to discuss accurate information, which shares nuanced multiple perspectives, not just a single perspective. Because, as we know, young people are increasingly getting their information from social media, from unverified sources, and YouTubers, others who are, at best, coming up with great ways to explain difficult concepts, but at worst are actually peddling harmful, hateful, inaccurate
Yeah.
information, which unless we empower teachers and students in the classroom to actually break down these concepts and talk about them and see the different points of view and digest and understand them for themselves, then we're just leaving children severely vulnerable to the very seductive
Yeah.
social media world. So I think it started 12 years ago with the intention of breaking down the most complex current issues going on in the world for young people, which enables them to think critically about what's going on, see nuanced perspectives, understand difficult, seemingly difficult concepts, and to communicate really effectively around them, learn how to listen to others, to adapt their point of view based on other inputs, but also to express their own point of view and feel really comfortable doing that. And when I go into schools and see it being done, it's just amazing to see the kids absolutely love it because they're on their feet, they're discussing, they're talking. There's, it's all oracy based. There's no pens and papers. It's up, it's moving around the room. And they are, I talk to them after I observe a lesson. I'm like, why do you enjoy this? Or what is it about it? And they say all sorts of things. It's like they love talking about real things going on in the world today. They're hearing about cost of living crisis and then suddenly they're doing a lesson on it, or they're hearing about tariffs and then suddenly they're playing a game about tariffs. So it's making it real and accessible for them. And they say things like, before I was afraid of what was going on in the world, now I'm not. I didn't know how to express my point of view, but now I do. And other things like, I used to, I disagree with my friend, but on a particularly contentious issue, but I understand their point of view and I'm now curious to find out more about their point of view. So it's when you see these effects, then that sort of motivates me and the team to really keep on going with this journey, working with these incredible experts at The Economist and really making that accessible for young people across the world.
And it's amazing. I mean, because if you were a teacher and you wanted to do that, let's say you heard about tariffs and you thought, I want to talk to the kids about tariffs. It would take weeks of preparation to try and by the time you prepared, of course, a certain president would have already changed their tariffs, and you'd have to start again. But with what you've got global expertise in that space, preparing that, and with every potential eventuality, with different opinions, etc. So the teachers can bring it up and know that it's safe to bring up, that it's been explored well enough, it's got expert backing behind it. And they can I assume they can pick it up with an hour or two's notice and be ready to teach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually invited a group of students from one of our primary schools that's been doing Topical Talk, since the beginning, and they came into the office here at The Economist a month or two ago, and we did the tariff lesson with them, and it is amazing. Like it turns it into a game, and they understand what tariffs are. They then then play a game, kind of looking at the effect of tariff changes on a kind of fictional business idea that they've had, and then you had Economist group colleagues overheard in the kitchen saying, I can't believe these 11-year-olds have a better understanding of tariffs than I do. And it's amazing.
Yes.
And I think we're in quite unique, we have a unique opportunity to do this because we have the experts in the building who are thinking about this stuff and breaking it down every week anyway.
Yes.
And then we have pedagogical experts in the team. And it's that combination of those two things that means we can turn very well thought through lessons, beautifully designed, very quickly, which are then in the hands of teachers. And they get a short teacher pack with instructions on exactly how to teach it. They get the printouts that they just print out and you can pin around the classroom. And then there's sort of the beautifully designed PowerPoint, which they show on the screen and take the students through. So they really need kind of only sort of 10 minutes preparation, and then they're delivering an incredibly high quality lesson, which is advancing their children's knowledge of understanding of topics that they simply wouldn't get the opportunity to engage with otherwise.
And that's so perfect, because one of the things that we hear so often when we talk about getting money education into schools is that it's hard for the teachers to teach because they're not experts in the subject. And so this is what's great about the way you created this is it's not hard for the teacher to teach. This is a bridge to them be able to have money discussions with their students. So that sounds as well so perfect for solving another problem.
Absolutely. And I was looking in advance of the podcast, I was looking back through our kind of catalogue of lessons that we've done on kind of economic or financial issues. And there were things that from before my time that I'm like, wow, I can't believe we were, teaching this. So there's one that we did in September 2003 on global economics and the division of labour. And it was in partnership with the University of Glasgow. And it's, children are learning about Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, the concept of the division of labour, and, again, playing a game which gets them to really internalise the concepts. And again, so empowering for a young person, to be able to engage with these concepts.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. Now, we can turn a little bit personal, because I love to hear people that work with, with money and with money, financial education, how they got interested in the subject. And I think particularly the idea that quite often we have an aha moment, a eureka moment, like, oh, I understand this now. It can be about a particular, and it becomes that avenue in. Did you have that personally? And what was it, if you did?
No, I don't think I'm waiting for my eureka moment. For me, it's an ongoing process of learning and learning and learning. Like
It's fair.
I mean, it's part of why I love what I do here is because I
Yeah.
learn about tariffs through through the
Yes.
lessons that the team is producing. I learn every week by reading The Economist and then joining the Monday morning editorial meetings, which I love, and kind of hearing
Yeah.
the journalists debate what's going to make the what the different perspectives on the top 5 leaders of the week. So for me, it's maybe I've missed the question, but it's a sort of ongoing learning
Yeah.
journey.
No.
But what I love and what I've seen in students, so I started my career as a teacher on the Teach First program back in 2004, and what I love is when a topic, no matter how complex, and I was a history teacher, we were doing like really difficult stuff around, year 9, you're kind of doing the slave trade and the Holocaust and your big topics. And but when a difficult or challenging or was kind of a highly emotive topic is really carefully broken down, and you take the students on a journey, and you take them on a journey with a story, and you encourage them to develop that ability to not get set on one point of view or not pin their ego to one idea, but
Yeah.
really learn to be curious and think critically. Then I was working in a school serving a very low income community in northeast London, and every child in my class, if I designed the lesson well, every child in that class could go on that journey and could emerge with really valuable knowledge and really key skills that would serve them well for life. And I think what's really I think the reason I'm working here now and not in history teaching, the reason is because I think the world is changing so fast. I think the information environment that young
Yeah.
people are in is so much more complex and scary and just unverified. It's just more important than ever that we empower young people to be able to break down what's going on now in the global context and feel empowered to apply those kind of skills. That
Yeah.
hasn't answered your
You,
question.
you you actually answered it totally differently, but I love it, because I think what you answered, rather than having an aha moment with money, you had an aha moment with pedagogy and with teaching, which I think is it. For what we're doing, we are always talking about teaching about money, so one or the other. So I think that's absolutely perfect. When you've been in classrooms, and I think when you go into classrooms, you see different subjects being taught every time. But is there a sort of unifying aha moment you see in the kids? And you sort of say, when it sort of gets to the end of a particular idea, or what is there a particular mechanism you use in the classes, whether it's gamifying it, or I think you're saying earlier on, moving around and taking part. Is there a particular thing where you see a lot of that's where it's like, aha, they get a particular idea and they really get involved, or does it change every single time?
I think that the team design the lessons so beautifully that it's as I talked about before, they take them on a journey through the lesson that it rarely feels like a this is the minute I get it.
Yeah.
It's each, they'll, the I'm just I watched a lesson the other day that we'd done on Kashmir and the conflict between India and Pakistan, but it was looking at the availability of natural resources. So the Indus River
Mm-hmm.
going through the territory and who has control of that river and the consequences of supply of water being cut off between one territory and another. And the lesson began with a kind of role play, which was completely fictionalized about a kind of two villages and control of natural resources. That got them warmed up. That got them thinking about the deeper themes. And then it went into scarcity of natural resources and the questions around that kind of globally and whether countries should have control and what the implications are. And then it started dripping in some information about Kashmir and about the conflict between India and Pakistan. And then it brought in water. And then by the end, they'd watched a short video from The Economist, which was designed for an adult audience on this conflict. But they've been so beautifully led through it that by the end they genuinely came out with having developed the skills of listening, of developing their idea. There was some agree, disagree movement they had to do. They had to debate, but then they also were more aware of what was going on in that part of the world. And it's that very carefully and brilliantly
Yeah.
curated journey, and that's done using, there's a whole toolbox that the team are drawing on the whole time for as they approach a different topic. And sometimes it's a game, sometimes it's a kind of discussion and debate, and
Yeah.
it's very very beautifully designed.
And the I just assume that is this always those toolboxes? Do they change like by age group? So it's like, let's say a particular subject matter comes up. Is it age gated for like particular? Should be older than this to have this discussion, and then that sort of moves around every week, or is it something that there are sort of different options for different age groups, or one size fits all? How do you manage that?
It's so interesting because when I joined back in September, so I took over from the founder CEO a year ago, and it was one of my questions was each of these lessons is being designed for 10 to 16-year-olds. That's quite a wide
Yeah.
age bracket. Like, does it work? And I went into a series of different schools in a London primary, a secondary in rural Devon, a secondary in rural Derbyshire, and saw it taught in year 6, year 9, and year 11. And it worked in all contexts. And I think that's because we all respond, this crafted
Mm.
journey, we all respond to, like we all respond to a role play, a game. It's the way that you hook in a 10-year-old, actually a sort of a 15 or 16-year-old will more often will be engaged through that process. What the
Yeah.
15 or 16-year-old will bring to the discussion will usually be extra knowledge and context. So the question that's posed in the lesson, they will be able to bring some extra knowledge and context to enrich the discussion. But in terms of the way it's designed, it works. One of the things we are looking at in the future, though, is we are looking at potentially looking at separate sort of primary, secondary, and sixth
Yeah.
form products, so that we can make sure that continues to be true and is the best it can be. But yeah, it's something I've been quite surprised by. But I think again, it's in the cleverness of the design.
I suppose, yeah, because I suppose particularly if you're engaging and you're not trying to teach, but you're trying to get people to have an experience, and you're asking questions and posing challenges, then the responses can be from any age group, I suppose, right? So, and that's why I assume that there is the learning that goes on, because it's not just force feed, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
when it's something more complicated, I mean, with the tariff lesson, for example, there was early on, there's a big bit of text kind of explaining how, the changes to tariff, how
Yeah.
the whole thing works. And the technique was that the teacher read it through, or someone read it through, and then they were in pairs and they had to explain to each other what they'd just heard. And so it's like something a little bit more dense.
Yeah.
There's again little techniques used to get the young people to be able to adopt it, internalize it. You know, that thing of if you teach, you learn twice, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's
Yeah.
these simple but clever ways to
That's
make
very,
difficult
very good.
things
And
accessible.
and you mentioned schools in the UK, and obviously, The Economist is originally is a British publication. But I remember reading years ago that I think you had at one point you had more subscribers in the US or globally than you do in the UK. I mean, it's a global
Yeah,
publication
it
now.
is.
Does that follow through into the Economist Education Foundation and Topical Talks? And do you have to do anything to make it global as a result?
That's really interesting. Yes, we are global. So our resources have been in last year downloaded by 10,000 teachers in over 100 countries across the world. And we have a big news festival where we get
Yeah,
classes from all over the world participating. So which is really exciting. In terms of the content, we make sure that we are covering a range of topic areas and also geography, so that our content isn't too UK centric or UK US centric. And so in the last 6 months, we've done lessons on the choices facing Syria. We've done lessons addressing kind of what's going on in Israel. We've been looking at back to the kind of more economics themed things. We did a brilliant lesson on the Big Mac Index, which is something that
okay.
the
Yes.
Economist publishes every year,
Yeah.
which is super interesting, and it's looking at how currencies, what is the cost of a Big Mac across the world, and then we've got the children thinking about what's another, what else could you use apart from a Big Mac that you could compare the value of currencies across the
Yeah.
world. And so there's all sorts of things that children all over the world can get involved in the discussion. So we're applying a kind of global mindset as we design the lessons, but they are in English, much
Yeah.
as The Economist itself is in English, and but that doesn't seem, it's not a barrier at the moment.
Yeah, I'm going to 100 countries. There's not 100 English language speaking countries, right? So, I mean, have you ever seen feedback of people translating it? Are they happy to just use it in English and continue through? But again, I guess given the nature of what you do, given if it's sort of discussion, if it's questions, if it's challenges, if it's role play, it very naturally switches back to their own languages, I guess, right?
Yeah. And it's something we're looking at, whether or not we do a kind of a pilot and we translate our resources ourselves. And we're looking at doing that next year. I think we're going to try translating it into Spanish and seeing if that makes a difference to the number of people who download it in Spanish-speaking countries. But I think with the advances in AI and the ease with which people are going to be able to just translate things for themselves,
Yeah.
it may be that we don't need to translate the resources, but those who want to access them in their home language can use AI to do that. There's something for us that's quite interesting. I think it's similar for The Economist, just making sure we're being, our resources so carefully thought through and worded. You would need to apply that same care. As a poor translation could really
Yeah.
affect the nuance of the
Yes.
information.
Yeah. And we all know ChatGPT is not perfect. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's yes. The and Google Translate. I was trying to remember something. There was one the other day I saw. It was just the most disastrous translation. Meant nothing like the original word. But yes, it is obviously very, very important that does happen. Now, this is because you've been there a relatively short period of time. I don't know if you'll have this, but maybe you'll have it from sort of the team experience. Do you? One things we hope to do with these interviews is for people to learn about how to sort of move towards best practice. But obviously, one of the ways we all learn best is by making mistakes. And I wonder if you've got any particular mistakes that you feel that, the topical talks used to make, or things you used to do that you improved on. You looked and said, this isn't quite working out. We could do this and this differently. And how you got to where you are today. Was there anything particular that you're like, okay, mustn't do that anymore. Let's do it this way?
I'm sure there are. I'm trying to think. I think one of the things what mistakes? I
Well,
guess it's just there's a
your
huge
predecessor is going to be
commitment.
very happy to hear that you can't think of a single thing that
I
she did
can't.
wrong.
No, I know that sounds disingenuous. I think I don't mean to be. I've been so impressed. Like the quality bar is so high here.
Yeah.
Like internally, like the journalists themselves, the Economist Foundation team, like the commitment to excellent is sort of unshakable, which is really exciting. I think as a startup charity, the temptation has been to keep trying to change things, change things all the time,
Yeah.
or and the last year, what I've been trying to do, or what we've kind of committed to doing, is actually steady the ship. So we are doing, we do a weekly lesson for 10 to 16-year-olds on a complex global current issue. We do that brilliantly. And then our mission this year and next year has been get that out further and wider, because we've doubled our reach in the last year. So there's 250,000 young people experience Topical Talk. Last academic year, this academic year, it would have been over 500,000 young people. And our aim is for 1 million young people to experience it next year, because we know the product is really good. We know it works. We just need to get it into more hands of more teachers and more kids experiencing it, to get those incredible benefits of building that communication, critical thinking, global knowledge about these complex political and economic topics.
And how do teachers find you? Sorry, because that's actually, I think it's fascinating. But one of the struggles we have with financial education, financial literacy, is distribution, is reaching
Yeah.
more and more people. How are you finding them? Do you find them? Do they find you? How does that work?
Well, one of the again, the beautiful. I sound a bit Trumpian. One of the beautiful things, one of the great things about what we do, which is different to, I think, a lot of other initiatives, is a lot of other initiatives will develop excellent programs, and then they're trying to build awareness of that program, but the program remains quite static. So, what we have to our advantage is that every week there's something new to talk about. There's new content, and it's inherently relevant. Cost of living crisis, big item in the news. Here's your cost of living crisis lesson. Tariffs big in the news. Here's your tariff lesson. So we actually invest a lot in our marketing and social media, and just getting to where teachers are, and we're going direct to teachers again, because it's free to download. Teachers don't need to get the sign off or buy it, of their seniors. They can literally download it, teach it. So we've removed that barrier to entry. We've got fresh, marketable content every week that's inherently relevant. So that's where we invest a lot of our budget. Is a proportion of our budget is in marketing, and kind of social media marketing. But on top of that, we also realise that there's more to be done to empower teachers to be teaching it really effectively in a way that is really embedded in their schools. And so we also put a lot of effort into working in partnership with multi-academy trusts in the UK and school districts in the US. And so we've got a handful of school districts and multi-academy trusts that we're working with, and there we're working more intensively with them, and we're working with the leadership of the multi-academy trust, the head teachers, and kind of nominated teacher champions within the schools. And then we're training them, we're helping them articulate exactly how Topical Talk fits into their curriculum objectives. and helping them find the time in their curriculum to do it, whether that's by using a kind of an hour of English a week to do it, or whether that's using it as part of their citizenship curriculum, or part of their enrichment, finding the way that works for them to embed it deeply, and then training the teachers, because again, the lessons are brilliantly designed. You can and most teachers do just download them, read the instructions, print it out and teach it. But there will be some teachers who feel nervous about teaching some of these topics. And again, we deliver brilliant training sessions for them to make them feel more confident in handling difficult questions, but also in using these techniques, which, as I rightly identified, is very much about teacher as facilitating these discussions, using really effective questioning to develop those essential skills that we're trying to develop over the course of the lesson.
Have you? I mean, do you look beyond teachers as well, or so not beyond, but to the side of teachers? I mean, parents, students themselves. I mean, do you see people? I'm sure you must get demand. If you've got 10,000 teachers, you must have at least a few parents going, I'd like to do that myself with our kids.
Yeah, we do. But we are quite focused on empowering the teacher as the facilitator for a number of reasons. I think that there are other cool things that kids can do directly. Like I was speaking to Oxplore the other day. They have a great website where children can go on and be by themselves, be kind of encouraged to think about kind of deep philosophical questions. There's there's other resources out there for parents. I think what we see, particularly now with so much kids spending so much time on social media, on their tablets, on in that kind of those spaces, actually, and yet they're still going to school for a decent number of hours each day, where they are having human interactions, where the teacher is a known entity, and also where you've got a classroom. It's the most amazing crucible for these discussions, because you've more often than not, you've got children in any classroom, wherever you go, there is likely to be kids in that classroom from different socioeconomic backgrounds, from different cultural backgrounds, and to facilitate these kinds of conversations where you actually have a diversity of perspectives, and it's a safe space because the kids know each other, they know their teacher, and more often than not, they trust their teacher. That is the most brilliant environment for these kinds of discussions, and I think what the gap we're trying to plug is the environment exists. What's harder for teachers to create by themselves is the excellent content, and that's where we come in. We can quickly put in their hands top quality, highly relevant content, which they have the strength of the relationships and that diversity of perspectives that they can draw on. So I think that's what we're trying to do and what we're trying to grow.
That's brilliant. I love it. I think it's such a great. I'm looking at the time, and I'm waiting for someone to appear behind your shoulder, saying that you've got to vacate the room any minute now. Those are most of the questions I wanted to ask. I actually have lots more because I think it's fascinating what you're doing, and I hope you're planning on 2 million kids after the year after 1 million kids. And then 4 million the year after that. Because obviously, one of the favorite conversations of anyone that works in financial education is compounding. So we want to see that you doubling that reach. And there are still hundreds of millions of kids that will benefit from having this kind of education in class. So, we really do hope you spread it.
More. And anyone listening to this who could help us achieve that, either with links to schools, to school districts, to multi-academy trusts, to other school networks, or to funders, people who are interested in backing this financially. We are an independent charity. The Economist gives us some money, but we do work with all sorts of trusts and foundations and corporates who really are supporting this work. So please get in touch if this you'd like us really to get this into the hands of more young people across the world.
Yes, absolutely. It sounds, there's so many other things you're doing, which I'm very impressed by, because we normally talk about financial literacy, and clearly that is an element of what you do, but you're doing something broader than that. But that's so valuable, because that broader part is just as valuable too, because I don't think, You mentioned earlier on University of Glasgow, and I'm just going to mention this before the person arrives behind your shoulder. But there's a research done at the University of Glasgow that showed that one of the few things that reduces political polarization is financial literacy, and that the more financially literate you are, the more likely you are to be either centre left or centre right, and the lower your financial literacy, the more likely you are to be extreme left or extreme right. There's a study done, I think, in 2016. I think they're looking at doing a bigger global repeat, but it's done at the University of Glasgow. So what you're doing, plays into all of those things: the critical thinking, the broader geopolitical thinking, but also the financial thinking as well is so valuable to that. So thank you very much. And I'm going to wrap it up here because I'm sure someone's going behind you and say congratulations again for winning. And clearly it's very well deserved. You're doing wonderful work. And thank you for coming on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Michael. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Better Money with the MAIAs. If you found it useful and would like to learn more from other winners of the MAIA Awards, please subscribe to this podcast wherever is easiest for you. You can also visit our website, which is maiawards.org, or follow the Money Awareness and Inclusion Awards on LinkedIn and other social media. Thank you, and we hope you'll join us again soon.